Good afternoon, welcome to Advertising Week Europe with me, Andy Johnson. There cannot have been a more fertile time for one of the guests I'm going to interview now to be operating in. Political cartoonists, satire. Very warm welcome to Dave Brown from The Independent. Dave, I guess you're spoilt for choice at the moment, are you?
Yeah, I don't think we've ever had quite the situation at the moment with Trump in America and Brexit here, where the cartoon almost draws itself in the morning. You know, things have got pretty strange in the world of politics recently.
And tell me how it works in terms of when you come up with the idea and how it gets eventually onto the, well, I'll say the newspaper, onto the digital edition, of course.
Yeah, I start my morning, looking at a lot of news sources, TV, radio, papers, and by about 10 I speak to somebody on the paper and we kick around a few topics, decide what the big story is of the day. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes we have to search a little bit for it. And then it's a matter of sitting down at a blank piece of paper and coming up with that idea, which could happen in 5 minutes. It could be a light bulb moment, very cartoony. It could be half the day banging your head on the drawing board, desperately trying to make something work. And then, depending on how long you've got, you can do a beautiful, elaborate picture, or it's got to be something simple but still punchy and effective.
Is it more difficult having so much material you could potentially go at, or was it more difficult when perhaps it was a bit of a slow day?
The slow days are the worst, yeah. Trump is great. He's already a caricature, Suddenly we got this man, aging, reality TV star with a face like a sour satsuma and this strange thing that looks like a dead ferret on his head.
He's almost
what have you got to do as a caricaturist?
He's almost invented for cartoons, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's perfect. There's this strange thing. Somebody asked me who I most like drawing. And of course, the people you most like drawing are the ones you most dislike, because you can put all that bile and hatred into the caricature. There's this strange thing. Trump being elected is great for cartoonists. A small problem, but it might be bad for the rest of the world, But hey, we're having a good time.
And are there rules in place in that? Because, quite frankly, you could probably do a Trump cartoon 3 times a day, never mind 1 time a day at the moment. How do you make sure it's not him every single day, or does that not matter? Do you try and vary it, I guess?
It really is down to the news. If Trump is dominating the news agenda to an extent, I've got to follow that. That's what's on people's minds. But always, after a few days, something else will happen, We're never short of events.
And you've been talking, of course, in this session today about satire, and for you, as we've said, happy days at the moment. The age of satire is well and truly alive, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. One of the things I said was in 1973, when Henry Kissinger got the Nobel Peace Prize, at the end of the Vietnam War. Tom Lehrer, the American satirist, said, satire just died. Well, 44 years down the line, a lot of people have written its obituaries, but we're very much alive and kicking. And I think at the moment there's a really strong crop of British satirical cartoonists out there. And, as we say, a lot of material for them.
How has your job changed in the terms that The Independent, of course, is now digital only as opposed to a print edition? What difference has that made?
Not a great deal of difference to me. I'm sort of probably the most old-school analog part of the paper. I still draw with a dip pen and Indian ink. I paint in watercolour. It's very much a manual process still. Until I get to the end, then it's simply a matter of scanning it and emailing it to the paper. I don't draw digitally because I find that a bit soulless, to be honest. I think half the thing of the cartoon is often the happy accidents that happen. When you draw with a dip pen, it's scratchy, it catches in the paper, you get little splatters. They become part of the cartoon. It's an organic, living thing.
It's quite lovely, though, isn't it, to think here we are at Adweek Europe 2017, talking about all things tech and high tech, which, of course, is still part of your job, but actually the essence of it is still the pen and the paper and the ink, and, of course, the kernel of a great idea.
Yeah, it's a medium that, isn't going to go away, but it's got this whole new platform on social media. I can tweet the cartoons as well now. Obviously, The Independent reaches a lot more people as a digital platform than it did simply as a paper. And cartoons work very well on screen.
And by the same token, that a really strong photograph can say a lot more than words. So can a very clever and well-drawn political cartoon.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe some of the best cartoons don't even have words, not necessarily a speech bubble or a title. It's when the image tells a story, that's the most powerful thing. It has a sort of visceral, hit you in the guts response.
And of course, we've heard today that Theresa May is now going to trigger the fabled Article 50, so I guess that's on your mind for what you're going to do for the paper tomorrow.
Yeah, well, not for tomorrow, because I'm not drawing today, because I'm here, but...
day after tomorrow.
It'll be the day after, I'm afraid, yeah. Yeah, Brexit has all been, for the Cartoonist, the idea of going off a cliff edge, which has had lots of great cartoons come out of that. I've managed to riff on Thelma and Louise, with Corbyn getting taken along for the ride in the car as they go over the cliff edge, and, of course, the Italian Job, and... supposedly, I think, I just see Theresa May saying, hang about, I've got a great idea. And we're all left in suspense.
The other great thing is as well, that thankfully as well, in politics, although we might be in general terms devoid of big characters, big hitters, not from your perspective, because you've got Theresa May, who I guess is a really good character to draw, as is Corbyn. Yeah, and at the moment, we've got a great crop of people. From time to time, you get a new PM or something, and people say, oh, how are you going to caricature them? I remember with Blair, everybody said, oh, he's Bambi, he's good-looking, he's so young, how can you caricature him? But he was a gift. And it's just a matter of drawing him enough to people to start seeing what you see in them. And then, the teeth get bigger, the ears stick out more, and that one mad roving eyeball gets more and more insane, And is there any person that you haven't drawn yet, or is in the back of your mind that you'd like to tackle? I mean, you're so busy at the moment with so much great material, you probably haven't got time, but in an ideal world?
I'm not sure there is. I mean, they have to sort of get to a certain amount of prominence before you start drawing them, There's no point caricaturing backbench MPs that nobody would recognise. It's almost like it's sort of a badge of honour for the politicians when they become caricaturable. I remember, a few years ago, I actually sold a couple of cartoons to George Osborne's mother, and that was obviously the proud mum. Her son was now famous enough to be caricaturable. Now, of course, he's editor of our sister paper, The Evening Standard, so I don't know, maybe I'll be told not to caricature him.
Just one of the few jobs he has now.
Yeah, one of the many, yeah.
And that being the case, then, looking a bit further ahead, you've got Trump, you've got Theresa May, you've got Corbyn, you're kept very busy. Anybody else you've got a wary eye on, or are they going to occupy your time from now and for some time to come? Well,
I guess there's the rest of Trump's cabinet, who aren't so well known here yet. But, over time they will be, if they last long enough, of course. At the moment, the life expectancy for somebody in Trump's cabinet only seems to be a few weeks. So maybe I'll never get around to drawing half of them.
Well, Dave, thanks very much for joining us today, and good luck with what is a very, very ripe time for you and for satire in general. Thank you very much indeed. And, of course, you can see Dave's cartoons on the Independent website every day, and you can join in the conversation, #AdWeekEurope.